Welcome to Life Stories. Today, we bring you a tale of resilience, innovation, and the ultimate quest for recognition. It's the story of one woman's journey through the tech industry, where years of hard work, sacrifice, and ingenuity went unnoticed, until the moment she took control of her future. In the face of betrayal and corporate apathy, she turned her challenges into triumphs, carving out a new path and securing the recognition she deserved. Sit back and listen to this inspiring story. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to begin today's journey. It was the end of an era for me. 15 years, one company, countless long nights of work, and endless hours spent in meetings, brainstorming sessions, and managing a team of brilliant minds. We had built something exceptional at Apex Technologies. Something I was immensely proud of, the very technology that powered their flagship product. Used by Fortune 500 companies around the world. I had given everything to that place. Or so I thought. But as I sat across from Victoria and Rachel in the small, glass-walled conference room, the weight of it all was slowly starting to sink in. I wasn't surprised. Not really. In fact, I had known this moment was coming. I had anticipated it for weeks. Ever since an email thread had been accidentally sent to my inbox, showing a decision-making process to restructure the company. I saw my name mentioned. And I wasn't in the plans. The moment that email had landed in my inbox, I felt my heart skip a beat. It was as if all the years of work had suddenly been reduced to a few short lines of text. My contributions, everything I had worked for, were about to be disregarded. Just as if I had never mattered. When they told me the company was moving in a new direction, the words sounded hollow, rehearsed, like a script they had practiced over and over. Victoria's voice trembled slightly as she spoke, a barely concealed note of satisfaction in her tone that I noticed immediately. She sat across from me, her expression one of corporate regret, but not the type of regret you feel when you're genuinely sorry. No, this was the kind of regret that people adopt when they want to appear empathetic but don't feel it. I had seen it many times before. "We're restructuring your position," she said, her words ringing out with an artificial sincerity. Rachel, sitting next to her, slid a manila folder across the table towards me, her eyes downcast in an effort to avoid meeting mine. She wasn't even trying to look genuinely sorry anymore. I took the folder without a word, my fingers brushing against the smooth surface. Inside, I knew, would be the standard severance package. 2 weeks for every year of service, continued health coverage for 3 months, and career counseling resources that I would never use. It wasn't what I was after, but it was all they had to offer. "I completely understand," I said calmly, keeping my voice steady. I had spent years developing the art of composure. Even in moments like this, my voice didn't betray me, it was firm, controlled, professional. "These decisions are never easy." Relief flashed across their faces, as if they were waiting for me to break down in tears or explode in anger. I was 55 years old, a woman in a tech industry that prized youth above experience. They had probably expected me to be devastated. After all, what could a woman my age do when faced with a cruel reality like this? How could I ever find my place again? What they didn't know was that I had already processed this. I had known this moment was coming long before I had walked into this room. The truth was, I had been preparing for it, quietly biding my time while I watched the company's direction shift under the leadership of people who didn't appreciate what I had brought to the table. They saw the algorithm, the product, the end result, but they never saw the work that went into it. They didn't understand the late nights, the struggles, the sacrifices. They never understood what I had done to make this company the success it was. My thoughts wandered for a moment to my team, 6 brilliant engineers whom I had personally recruited, mentored, and helped develop the very distributed processing algorithm that now powered Apex's flagship product. The software used by over 40% of Fortune 500 companies. The thought of them, left in the wake of this, stirred a deep sadness in me. But I had already made a plan. "Your team will be notified this afternoon," Victoria continued, her voice gaining confidence as she noticed my calm demeanor. We'll need your keycard, company laptop, and phone before you leave. The words were final, impersonal. I had become just another casualty of the restructuring machine. I nodded without saying anything more. Of course, I replied, standing up from my seat and walking toward the door. I felt a slight tremor in my chest as I left the room. But I refused to let it show. This wasn't the moment for weakness. I had made my peace with it. As I passed the glass-walled conference room on my way back to my office, I glanced inside and saw the executive team meeting. They were gathered around a table. The CEO, Derek Lawson, gesturing animatedly at a PowerPoint presentation titled, Q3 Revenue Projections. It was almost too ironic to bear. The same Derek Lawson who had taken credit for my algorithm at last year's industry conference, referring to me only as one of our research team members. I closed the door to my office quietly and sat down at my desk. My fingers hovered over my phone for a moment before I sent a single text message. It's happening. Friday is my last day. The response came almost immediately. Perfect timing. Contracts are ready. Dinner tonight to finalize details. I smiled slightly as I looked at the calendar on my desk. Today was Wednesday. Friday, I would leave Apex Technologies for the last time. And Monday would be a new beginning. The next few days passed in a blur of final meetings, exit interviews, and administrative paperwork. It felt surreal, knowing that everything I had worked for was coming to an abrupt end. But, as planned, I kept up my professional composure. I didn't let on to anyone what was really happening behind the scenes. After all, I still had work to do. I needed to leave things in order. To document every process, every project, every password, and every piece of intellectual property I had helped develop. On Thursday morning, I made sure my desk was cleared of personal items, photos of my family, conference badges, a coffee mug from the team's last Christmas party. I packed everything into a box and made the rounds to say goodbye to a few colleagues. There were awkward glances, quiet words of sympathy, and an odd mixture of curiosity and sadness in their eyes. I knew they were all trying to figure out why I wasn't angry, why I wasn't falling apart. The truth was, I had been preparing for this moment for weeks. And now that it had arrived, I wasn't about to let it consume me. I wasn't angry, I was determined. The real work, however, had been done long before. 3 months ago, I had discovered something that no one at Apex had bothered to check. The patent application for the algorithm I had developed, the one that had become the backbone of their flagship product, had never been filed by their legal team. When I had inquired about it, they assured me it was being handled. But something about the response had felt off. So, I dug deeper. What I found was a strategy memo outlining how Apex planned to claim the algorithm as company-developed technology, without any specific attribution to me. It was clear they planned to push me out before securing the patent, knowing that intellectual property developed during employment typically belonged to the company. The moment I saw that memo, I knew what had to be done. I wasn't about to let them get away with this. I had already been working on refinements to the algorithm on my own time. Using my personal equipment, these refinements had increased processing efficiency by 43%. I knew that what I had done could change everything, not just for me, but for the whole tech industry. I filed for a patent in my name, meticulously documenting everything, with timestamps and development logs to prove that the work had been done outside of company time. And, with the help of my friend, Gregory Sullivan, the CEO of Vanguard Systems, I had secured exclusive licensing rights for my improved algorithm. When I signed the papers with him in the quiet, upscale restaurant on Thursday night, I felt the weight of the decision settle into my bones. This was it. The game had changed. Think about it, Greg said, sliding the folder across the table toward me. By Monday, this is yours, and by then, we'll have the press release ready. We'll make sure the industry knows exactly who you are. I took a deep breath as I scanned the documents. It wasn't just the money that had me excited, it was the recognition, the acknowledgement of my work, my contributions to the tech world. Greg smiled. watching me as I signed the final page. "You're about to change everything, Emily." I smiled back. But there was something deeper there. Something more satisfying. This wasn't about revenge. It was about what was rightfully mine. What I had built from scratch. And now, it was time to show the world what Apex had failed to recognize. "We've got work to do," I said, feeling a quiet surge of excitement. I couldn't wait for Monday, when I would step into Vanguard Systems as their new Chief Innovation Officer. And as for Apex, well, they had no idea what was coming. Friday arrived quickly, and with it came the inevitable last steps of my departure from Apex Technologies. It was strange, the quiet finality of it all. I had spent so many years pouring myself into this company, nurturing it, leading my team to success. Yet now, everything was being packed up and handed over in a few short days. I wasn't angry, at least, not anymore. There had been moments, days even, where the injustice of it all had weighed heavily on me. But I had turned those emotions into something more useful. Now, I felt calm, focused. The morning was spent in an exit interview with Rachel from our, who was robotic and efficient as she read off the checklist. It was as if she didn't even realize how absurd it was that she was asking me about intellectual property ownership. Given what had just happened, I was in the middle of leaving the company because they had failed to protect their own intellectual property. And here she was, asking if I had any proprietary data. I replied with a serene smile. "Anything developed within the scope of my employment using company resources during company time belongs to Apex, of course." I added the qualifiers a little more pointedly than necessary. But Rachel didn't seem to notice. She was too busy checking boxes on her form. As I prepared to leave, I made sure everything was in order. I meticulously packed up my office, my personal items, my notes, and everything that would show I had done the right thing. All along, I wasn't about to leave anything open to question. I wanted to make sure that when Apex finally realized what they had lost, there would be no ambiguity about my professionalism. The goodbyes were just as expected, brief and awkward. Some of my colleagues were sympathetic, while others were clearly uncomfortable. It was all too much for them to process. In truth, I didn't want their sympathy. I didn't need it. My mind was already on the future. I left the building with my box of personal items. Passing the glass-walled conference room once again. Derek Lawson, the CEO of Apex, was in there, likely discussing how to redistribute my responsibilities to younger, less experienced, and much cheaper staff. I didn't even glance inside. I had seen enough. The irony wasn't lost on me. Derek, who had stolen the credit for my algorithm, was now about to face the consequences of his arrogance. Outside, I stood in front of the sleek glass facade of Apex Technologies, staring at the building that had been my second home for so many years. It was a bitter feeling, but I wasn't dwelling on it. I had already walked away, emotionally and mentally. This wasn't the end, it was simply the closing of one chapter. The next one would be far more exciting. That evening, Greg and I finalized everything. He was elated, as was I, but it wasn't just about business. We were taking something from the corporate giants who had failed to appreciate me. Something I had built from the ground up. The paperwork was in place for Vanguard Systems to acquire the exclusive licensing rights to my patent. The press release would go out Monday morning. As we clinked glasses, Greg leaned in and said with a grin, "I can't wait to see their faces when the world knows you did this on your own terms." "I'm not doing this to make them suffer," I replied quietly. "I'm doing this because it's mine. And it's time everyone knew it." Monday was the day everything changed. My phone buzzed with the confirmation that the press release had gone out. I wasn't nervous, not in the slightest. I had been preparing for this moment for months. The industry was going to know exactly who I was. And most importantly, I would be taking back what was rightfully mine. At Vanguard Systems, I would finally be seen for what I truly was, an innovator. Not just a cog in the machine. As the weeks passed, the consequences of my departure from Apex Technologies rippled throughout the industry. Vanguard Systems had quickly integrated my algorithm into their flagship products. And the results were impressive. Our processing efficiency improved even further, surpassing all initial projections. I was finally working in an environment where my expertise was not only appreciated but celebrated. No longer would my contributions be overlooked or claimed by someone else. I was now in control of my work, my future, and my recognition. The fallout at Apex was even more intense than I had expected. Their stock dropped significantly, and the pressure from investors only grew. It wasn't long before they reached out, hoping to negotiate a licensing deal for my algorithm. But it was too late. The damage had already been done. They had lost their chance to treat me as replaceable. And now they were forced to pay the price for their oversight. As I sat in my new office at Vanguard Systems, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of satisfaction, not because I wanted to watch Apex crumble, but because I had finally found the respect and recognition I deserved. It was never about revenge, it was about owning my value. About teaching the industry that intellectual property, and the people who create it, should be properly recognized. A year later, as I stood before a large audience at a major tech conference, delivering a keynote address about innovation and the importance of protecting intellectual property, I realized just how far I had come. What had once been a quiet, unnoticed achievement was now the foundation of my career. I had carved out my place in the world, and it was mine to keep. If you want to hear more inspiring life stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for new videos every week.